The Cleveland Browns are on the verge of making one of the most controversial quarterback decisions in franchise history, and it all centers around a fifth-round draft pick that nobody saw coming. While mock drafts have the Browns projected to select elite quarterbacks Fernando Mendoza or Dante Moore with a top 5 pick in the upcoming 2026 NFL Draft, there's a growing movement inside the organization that's saying something completely different. Maybe the answer is already on their roster. His name? Shedeur Sanders. And what's happening right now in Cleveland could either be the redemption story of the decade or another catastrophic mistake that haunts this franchise for years to come. If you're here for the drama, the analysis, and the inside details on what's really going on with Shedeur Sanders and the Browns' quarterback future, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because this story is about to get wild.
Let's rewind to April 26, 2025, draft night, the moment that changed everything for Shedeur Sanders and potentially the entire trajectory of the Cleveland Browns franchise. But to understand the magnitude of what happened that night, you need to know what led up to it, because the Shedeur Sanders draft saga is unlike anything we've seen in modern NFL history. Coming into the 2025 NFL Draft, Shedeur Sanders was considered the 1B to Cam Ward's 1A among quarterback prospects. Mock drafts had him going as high as 3rd overall to the New York Giants. In the absolute worst-case scenario, analysts believed he'd be off the board by pick 9 or 10. This was a quarterback who had just completed an absolutely dominant senior season at Colorado under his father, Hall of Famer Deion Sanders. Shedeur posted a career-high 74% completion rate, threw for over 4,000 yards with 37 touchdowns against just 10 interceptions, and won the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year award. He set the NCAA record for the longest consecutive touchdown pass streak in history at 49 games. By every measurable statistic, he was elite. But then, something happened that nobody predicted. Round 1 came and went. No Shedeur Sanders. Tennessee took Cam Ward 1st overall. The Giants at number 3, they passed. Pick after pick, teams kept selecting other players. Then came round 2. Still nothing. Round 3 passed, then round 4. By this point, social media was exploding. 5 other quarterbacks had already been selected. Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Tyler Show, Jalen Milroe, and Dylan Gabriel. All of them went before Shedeur Sanders. What was happening? How could one of the most accomplished college quarterbacks in recent memory be falling this far? The answer came in the form of anonymous quotes that started circulating just days before the draft. One longtime NFL assistant coach went on record with NFL Network saying Shedeur delivered, quote, "the worst formal interview I've ever been in my life. He's so entitled. He takes unnecessary sacks. He never plays on time. He has horrible body language. He blames teammates. But the biggest thing is, he's not that good." Another AFC executive echoed similar concerns, saying the interview with Shedeur didn't go great and that Shedeur wanted to dictate what he's going to do and what's best for him. The criticism was brutal, personal, and perfectly timed to tank his draft stock. NFL Network's Kyle Brandt went on an absolute tirade defending Sanders on Good Morning Football, calling out the anonymous coach for hiding behind anonymity and saying, quote, "I see entitlement in a grown professional who is going around anonymously destroying young athletes with very personal quotes." Even Kansas City Chiefs star Travis Kelce jumped to Sanders' defense on his podcast, demanding the anonymous sources come out and say who they were and dropping multiple F-bombs about the situation. But the damage was done. When the 5th round finally arrived on Saturday, the Cleveland Browns, picking at number 144 overall, decided to trade up and take a shot on the fallen star. Browns general manager Andrew Berry and head coach Kevin Stefanski's faces when the pick was announced told the entire story. They looked exhausted, stoic, almost grim. Not exactly the expression you'd expect when drafting a potential franchise quarterback. When they called Shedeur to welcome him to Cleveland, Berry's message was direct and pointed. Get ready to go to work and prove all the people who passed on you wrong.
Shedeur signed a 4-year deal worth just $4.6 million. Compare that to what he would have earned as a top 10 pick, probably north of $30 or $40 million fully guaranteed, and you start to understand the financial gut punch this was for someone who had been projected as a future NFL starter his entire college career. His father, Dion, tried to spin it positively, saying we've already won and that the criticism was laughable, but you could tell this hurt. Fast forward to the 2025 season. The Browns started the year with veteran Joe Flacco at quarterback, with Deshaun Watson recovering from a catastrophic Achilles injury that he'd suffered and then re-torn, effectively ending any realistic hope of him being the long-term answer. The team also had Kenny Pickett on the roster and fellow rookie Dillon Gabriel, who'd been selected in the 3rd round ahead of Sanders. Shedeur was 4th on the depth chart. 4th. A guy who many believed should have been a top 5 pick was fighting just to get practice reps. The season was a disaster from the jump. Joe Flacco was traded mid-season. Kenny Pickett was shipped out shortly after. Dillon Gabriel got his shot, won 1 game, then suffered a concussion in his 2nd start. And that's when Kevin Stefanski made the call. Week 24 against the Las Vegas Raiders, Shedeur Sanders would make his first NFL start. Now here's where the story gets interesting. In his NFL debut, Sanders did something that hadn't been done by a Browns rookie quarterback this century. He won. Not only did he win, but he threw a 66-yard touchdown on a screen pass to running back Dylan Sampson for his first career NFL touchdown and led the team to victory over the Raiders. After the game, Sanders had a message for everyone who doubted him. He basically said, "This is just the beginning." But it wasn't smooth sailing from there. His 2nd start against the San Francisco 49ers was rough. The Browns lost 26-8. Sanders completed just 16 of 25 passes for 149 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Questions immediately started bubbling up again. Was the draft criticism right? Was he really not that good? Then came Week 14 against the Tennessee Titans, and Shedeur Sanders delivered one of the most statistically impressive performances by a Browns rookie quarterback in franchise history. He threw for 364 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and added a rushing touchdown. No player in the Browns' history had ever combined over 300 passing yards, 3 touchdown passes, and a rushing touchdown in the same game. League-wide, only Joe Burrow had accomplished that feat as a rookie. Sanders set the NCAA record for the longest consecutive touchdown pass streak in history at 49 games. By every measurable statistic, he was elite. But then something happened that nobody predicted. Late in the 4th quarter, Sanders led a heroic drive to cut the Titans' lead to 31-29 with just over a minute remaining. The Browns needed a 2-point conversion to tie the game. Sanders had just thrown 3 touchdown passes and was in complete command of the offense. And what did Kevin Stefanski do? He pulled Sanders out and ran a wildcat formation with rookie running back Quinshon Judkins. The play failed. The Browns lost. Cleveland was officially eliminated from playoff contention. The decision sparked absolute outrage. Why would you take the ball out of your quarterback in the biggest moment of the game, especially after he just delivered a historic performance? Stefanski defended the decision by saying they'd used the Wildcats successfully near the goal line throughout the season, but fans and analysts weren't buying it. The optics were terrible. It looked like the coaching staff didn't trust their rookie quarterback in the clutch, even after he'd just lit up the Titans' defense for over 400 total yards. But something changed after that game. The very next day, Kevin Stefanski announced that Shedeur Sanders would be the starting quarterback for the remainder of the 2025 season. Not a competition, not a rotation. Shedeur was the guy. Since taking over as the full-time starter, Sanders has been a mixed bag. In Week 26 against the Bills, he threw for modest numbers, but showed flashes of his potential with big plays to Isaiah Bond and Harold Fannin. In Week 27 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he completed 17 of 23 passes for 186 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions in a 13-6 victory. It wasn't pretty, but it was a win against a divisional rival fighting for playoff positioning.
That win was massive because it did something crucial for Shedeur's future. It dropped the Browns out of contention for a top 2 pick in the 2026 NFL Draft.
Let's talk about what that means. Right now, as we enter the final week of the season, the Browns are sitting somewhere between the 3rd and 7th overall pick, depending on how results shake out. And here's where the entire story comes together. According to every major mock draft and NFL insider, there are really only 2 quarterbacks in the 2026 class who are considered legitimate franchise prospects worthy of a top 5 selection. Indiana's Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winner, and Oregon's Dante Moore, who has elite arm talent and is projected as a potential superstar. Multiple reports suggest that the Miami Dolphins are planning to trade up to the number 1 overall pick to select Mendoza after benching Tua Tagovailoa late in the season. The Las Vegas Raiders, picking 2nd, are almost certain to take Dante Moore, who NFL scouts say might have the best pure arm talent in the entire draft. That means by the time the Browns pick at number 3, 4, or wherever they land, both of the elite quarterback prospects will likely be gone. And this is where Shedeur Sanders' wins become incredibly significant. If the Browns had lost those games and secured a top 2 pick, the decision would be obvious. Draft Mendoza or Moore and move on from the Sanders experiment. But now the Browns are in a position where they'd have to trade up significantly, giving up multiple first-round picks and likely future draft capital just to jump into the top 2 and land one of those quarterbacks. Or they could use their top 5 pick on elite offensive line help, a game-changing wide receiver like Arizona State's Jordan Tyson, or a defensive stud, and instead commit to building around the cheap, controllable 4-year contract they already have in Shedeur Sanders. NFL insider reports are now saying that the decision facing the Browns is, quote, already clear. They should build around Shedeur Sanders, who's costing them just $4.6 million over 4 years in this era of NFL quarterback money, where even average starters command $40 to $50 million per season. From a pure financial and roster-building perspective, it makes sense. If Sanders can even become a league average starter, the Browns would have the salary cap flexibility to surround him with elite talent at every other position. But here's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about: Deshaun Watson. Remember him? The guy the Browns traded 3 first-round picks for and gave a fully guaranteed $230 million contract? The same Deshaun Watson who's played just 19 games in 3 seasons, gone 9-10 as a starter, and suffered 2 Achilles tears in the past year? Well, according to multiple reports from ESPN and NFL Network, the Browns are planning to keep Watson on the roster for the 2026 season. Why would they do that when it's obvious the Watson experiment has been a catastrophic failure? Math, pure and simple. Watson's contract is structured in such a way that cutting him before June 1st would result in an NFL record $131 million in dead cap money. Even if they cut him with a post-June 1st designation, which spreads the hit over 2 years, they'd still be looking at $80 million in dead cap in 2026 and $50 million in 2027. Watson's scheduled cap hit for 2026 is $80.7 million, the highest single-year cap hit in NFL history. So the Browns are trapped. They can't get rid of Watson without crippling their salary cap for years, but they also can't realistically start him after what we've seen. The most likely scenario, according to insiders, is that Watson serves as a highly paid backup or emergency third-string option, while Shedeur Sanders continues to start and develop. It's not an ideal situation, but it might be the best path forward given the financial mess they're in. Now let's talk about what the analytics actually say about Shedeur Sanders' performance. Through 17 weeks, the numbers are not great. He ranks 37th out of 38 qualifying quarterbacks in adjusted net yards per attempt. His completion percentage over expectation is negative 4.7%, ranking 37th. His catchable throw rate is just 67.9%, dead last among qualified starters. His passer rating of 68.5 ranks 38th, and his turnover-worthy throw rate of 6.8% also ranks 38th. These are objectively bad numbers, like among the worst in the league bad. But here's what the stats don't capture: context. Shedeur Sanders is a fifth-round rookie playing behind one of the worst offensive lines in football, throwing to one of the least talented receiving corps in the league outside of Harold Fannin Jr. and sporadic flashes from Jerry Jeudy and Isaiah Bond, and operating in an offense that's been completely dysfunctional all season. Former NFL quarterback Chase Daniel, who now works as an analyst, came out publicly and said Sanders has made, quote, major strides and that you can see clear development in his game week over week. He's getting the ball out faster. He's not drifting as far back in the pocket. His pocket presence, while still shaky, has improved noticeably from his first start to his most recent games. Daniel specifically noted that you have to look at the process, not just the outcomes, when evaluating rookie quarterbacks. Multiple mock drafts from respected outlets like Yahoo Sports, Fox Sports, and College Football HQ are now projecting that the Browns will not draft a quarterback in the first round of 2026. Instead, they're mocking wide receivers, offensive tackles, and defensive difference makers to the Browns in round 1. The consensus seems to be building that Cleveland will give Sanders at least one full offseason as the starter, surround him with better talent, and see what they have before making another massive investment at the quarterback position. Here's where it gets really interesting. Some analysts believe that even if the Browns do draft a quarterback high in 2026, Sanders still has a crucial role to play. He could compete throughout training camp in the preseason, forcing the rookie to earn the job rather than just handing it to them. And if Sanders loses that competition, his performance would have been showcased to the other 31 teams in the league for an entire offseason. With the desperate need for quality quarterback play across the NFL, shown by undrafted rookies starting games this season, a young, cheap, controllable quarterback who's shown flashes of competence would have significant trade value. Think about it. Teams like the Las Vegas Raiders, New York Jets, Tennessee Titans, or New Orleans Saints could all be in the market for a young quarterback. If Sanders proves he's even a capable game manager over the next 2 weeks and throughout the 2026 offseason, the Browns could potentially trade him for a second or third round pick, which would give them outstanding value for a fifth-round investment. It's a win-win scenario for Cleveland, no matter how this plays out. But the emotional, human element of this story cannot be ignored. Shedeur Sanders has handled this entire experience with remarkable maturity. Despite the anonymous criticism, despite falling to the 5th round, despite being buried on the depth chart, despite the controversy and the constant scrutiny that comes with being Deion Sanders' son, he's kept his head down and worked. His teammates, according to multiple reports, love him. Former Steelers players have praised how Sanders has handled himself despite dealing with, quote, grifters and overzealous fans. Buff Zone reporter Brian Howell, who covered Sanders for 2 full years at Colorado, said the criticism of his character is, quote, mind-boggling, and that the Shedeur he knows is a leader, well-liked by teammates, tough as nails, engaging with media after wins and losses, supremely confident but humble when appropriate, and someone who works on his game more than anyone on the team. The off-field challenges have been real, too. During his first start against the Raiders, 3 masked burglars broke into his home and stole $200,000 worth of belongings. That happened literally as he was preparing for his first NFL start. Most rookies would have been completely derailed by something like that. Shedeur showed up and won the game.
Multiple reports have confirmed that the Browns owner, Jimmy Haslam, admitted publicly that the Deshaun Watson trade was, quote, a big swing and miss, and that he and his wife Dee should be held accountable for the decision. That's significant because it shows the organization is finally being honest about their mistakes. The Watson trade and contract has been called by CBS Sports the single worst transaction in NFL history. They gave up 3 first-round picks, multiple other draft selections, and committed $230 million fully guaranteed dollars to a quarterback facing serious legal issues, and it set the franchise back by years. But maybe, just maybe, Shedeur Sanders represents the path forward. A low-cost, high-upside redemption story that allows the Browns to rebuild their offensive line, invest in elite weapons, fix their defense, and compete again without being handcuffed by massive quarterback contracts. They have 10 total draft picks in 2026, including 2 first-rounders. They could use those picks to completely overhaul the offense around Sanders, giving him every possible chance to succeed. The final 2 games of the 2025 season will be absolutely critical for Shedeur Sanders' future. He faces the Cincinnati Bengals in Week 18, a matchup against Joe Burrow, one of the only other quarterbacks who's accomplished the statistical feat Sanders achieved against Tennessee. How Sanders performs in these final games will likely determine whether the Browns go all in on him or use a high pick on a quarterback after all. There are legitimate questions that still need answers. Can Sanders improve his accuracy on intermediate throws? Will he learn to avoid those turnover-worthy throws that have plagued him? Can he develop better anticipation and timing with his receivers? Will the offensive line improve enough to give him a clean pocket? Is Kevin Stefanski the right coach to develop him, given the Browns' horrible track record with quarterbacks over the past 2 decades? Some NFL executives who spoke on background have said that Sanders was used to having so much control at Colorado under his father's coaching that he might struggle adjusting to an NFL environment where he won't have that kind of input. One NFC scouting director said Sanders will have to fight through adversity and understand that in an NFL building, quote, no one cares who your dad is, and the plays aren't going to be called exactly how he wants them. That's a fair criticism, but it's also something that can be coached and developed, especially if Sanders is willing to be coachable. What makes this story so compelling is that everyone was wrong. The teams that passed on him thought he wasn't good enough. The anonymous coaches who trashed him thought he was entitled and overrated. The analysts who projected him as a first-round pick thought he'd be gone by pick 10. And the Browns, who took him in the 5th round, might have accidentally stumbled into their franchise quarterback while trying to add a developmental backup. The 2026 offseason will define the next decade of Cleveland Browns football. Do they commit to Sanders and build around him? Do they draft a quarterback anyway and create a competition? Do they trade up for Mendoza or Moore and move on? Do they somehow run it back with Deshaun Watson getting another chance despite everything? According to recent reports, NFL insiders believe the answer is already becoming clear. Build around Shedeur. He's shown just enough promise, just enough flashes of potential, just enough toughness and leadership, and most importantly, he comes at a price point that allows Cleveland to fix every other hole on their roster. In an era where quarterback contracts are crippling franchises, having a young, cheap signal caller who might develop into something special is worth more than gold.
The Shedeur Sanders story is far from over. In fact, it feels like it's just beginning. Whether he becomes the franchise quarterback Cleveland has desperately searched for since they returned to the NFL in 1999, or whether he's a stopgap who helps the team bridge to the next era, his journey from first-round projection to fifth-round selection to potential franchise savior is one of the most fascinating storylines in football. The next few months will determine not just Sanders' future, but the entire trajectory of the Browns organization for the next decade. This video is based on publicly available reports, statistics, analyst projections, and insider information from various NFL sources, including ESPN, NFL Network, Yahoo Sports, Fox Sports, and multiple team beat reporters. Draft projections and mock drafts are speculative in nature. Player and team situations can change rapidly in professional football. All information is current as of the time of publication and subject to ongoing developments throughout the season and off-season.